So I did a short already on this particular statue, but here's a longer form video of it. So again, I apologize if the photo isn't that great. I will be going back to the Pointe à Calière Museum to redo some of the photos that I've taken because unfortunately I was very quick and wasn't able to take photos as nicely as I would have liked to. But on my Flickr, you will see better photos of this soon to come. So, for those of you who don't know, this is a statue of a hippo from the ancient uh, Egyptian religion. The Pointe à Calière Museum is doing another exhibit on the ancient Egyptian culture. Every few years, they do another exhibit on ancient Egypt, but also the Maya and Inca cultures as well. For those of you who don't know, Pointe Caliar is a history and archaeology museum found here in Montreal, and I do highly recommend visiting this museum. So if you're not in town, the next time you are, please do take a moment to visit this museum. If you are a Montrealer like myself, do take a moment to go and visit the museum. It's well worth it, especially for those of you who are citizens of the city or live nearby. The membership is currently $30 per year. I got my 2-year membership in January, so it cost me all of $60. That's of course $60 Canadian, so it's really not that much. That basically would mean that if I visit the museum 8 times, I've paid for my membership, which isn't hard to do in 2 years, right? I've already been there 3 times at the very least, so I can go 5 more times, and I've paid it off in the next, basically, let's say 20 months or so, give or take. So I know for sure that I'll be able to put that membership to good use and really enjoy visiting. And especially for, like I said, moments like this where my photos unfortunately didn't turn out so great, it's a good excuse to put that membership to work. So let's get on to the topic of the video today, which is, of course, as you can see, the photo of this hippo statue from the ancient Egyptian religion. So, for ancient Egyptians, hippos are associated with life, regeneration, and rebirth. Females of the species are seen as fiercely protective of their young. For others, however, hippos represent evil and chaos, and the hunt of them by pharaohs may be seen as the capacity of these pharaohs to bring order to chaos. Of course, in the Marvel cinematic world, hippos are the representation of Toilet, who is seen as a hippo god, particularly in the show Moon Knight on Disney Plus. Taweret is seen as the Great One, who is typically associated with saving life and protection. This god is seen in other African and Asian religions, usually with the same ideas of female protection of the home and, of course, female reproduction or fertility. So, as you can no doubt implicate, hippos are seen as a representation of femininity, of the female role, protection of home and family and fertility, and that's why it is a hippo and usually seen as female. In ancient religion, although gods do have powers and supernatural abilities, the focus isn't on that as much as it is in northern religions, where we see Thor, the god of thunder, with lightning bolts, in ancient Greece as well, with ancient religions in Africa, particularly Egypt. It tends to be much more functional, much more representations of us as human beings, of nature, and our relationships between humanity and nature, and how we can hopefully better uh, represent that and have better relationships. So, yes, gods, of course, do have supernatural powers, they do have supernatural abilities, but that's not necessarily like we have the god of the sun or the god. There is Ra and, all these other gods that do have these mystical powers and abilities, but it's not so much that, but rather, like I said, their connection to nature and how they connect to us as human beings. So it's much more a down to earth religion. At least that's my personal interpretation. Now, of course, if you disagree with me or you think I'm wrong, by all means, please leave a comment and let me know how and why you disagree. So I particularly like this statue. Now, obviously, my photo does not do it justice, but I like the fact that it's very simple and very basic, but yet you get very much the idea that this is, yes, indeed, a very much of a hippo, and that you have, again, it's made out of a very basic type of material, terracotta. This is the kind of material that anybody can make at home. This is not the kind of material where, like silk, for example, was something that only certain people knew how to turn the material into silk and to make silk garments. Terracotta was something that most people in Egypt could make, and probably knew somebody in the village or a nearby village to make. So this was something fairly common and accessible to the common man. So it goes back to religion being accessible to everybody. So even though certain things like mummification was something that was, especially with, if you're going to have gold and servants and all that jazz that would be brought with you in the afterlife, yes, that was something that was more for the pharaohs and the aristocrats and the upper crust. But having terracotta statues was something that realistically the common folk probably could make on their own, and probably did. You know, it wasn't so uncommon. Did everybody do it? Probably not. Obviously, there's always going to be a certain percentage of people that, maybe they travel. You had not nomadic, but nomadic tribes in Egypt, as well as other parts of Africa as well. So they may not have been particularly religious or practice other religions, but for those Egyptians that were practicing Egyptian religion, this is something they could theoretically do. It's a material that was accessible. Making a hippo isn't extremely difficult, where only certain artisans could really make it. Now, obviously, since this is a religious representation and it has religious connotations, there might be rites associated to it, and you had to perform certain sacraments, etc. But at the very least, the material was something that a lot of people could do, and could afford. It wasn't something that was so above and beyond the common folk that really only certain people would have. You might not necessarily, like I said, find this in the home of every single ancient Egyptian, but you could theoretically, since the material, like I said, is fairly common and fairly accessible. But let me know, guys, in the comment section what you think. I love to hear from you guys if you have any ideas or thoughts. I will try to make a longer form video about the exhibit as a whole. In the meantime, I'll take 2 or 3 particular items that I think are interesting and that I enjoy. For those of you who want to see the photos I've taken, as you probably know, you can go to my about page, or just basically on my banner. My Flickr account is linked. I will try to remember to link in my description to the exhibit on my Flickr account, so that way you can see the other photos I take. But I will, like I said, pick two or three other items and talk about them. It is a very interesting exhibit. Ancient Egyptian, Maya, Inca, all these cultures are definitely very interesting, and there's a lot to learn and a lot to know about from these cultures. So please take a moment to look at the photos, look at my videos. If not, there's definitely a lot on Wikipedia. And of course, I give full credit to Wikipedia. That's where I got a lot of the information for the video today. I make no bones about it. Like I said, a lot of what I present I find on Wikipedia. It's a great starting point for your research. Obviously, if you want to go and do a deep dive, they have a lot of reference points. So if you want to learn more about ancient Egyptian religion, ancient Egypt, Egypt in general, Wikipedia is definitely a good source to start with. Obviously, learn more, but it's definitely a good starting point. So I hope you guys have a great day and give this video a nice little thumbs up, a comment, and hopefully share it out on your community tab if you can. Thank you very much, everybody.